And specifically, we mean the context of the new Trump administration attacking democracies, north, south, east, west, threatening to invade places, all of the terrible things that we've seen coming from this. How do we confront this crisis together and go from feeling like we're on the defensive to creating a strategy to build a new future for ourselves? So that's what unites us in struggle. But I'm going to let Minor kick things off here to tell us about his work in Guatemala, what they are doing, and then and as Shamika said, please think about your questions. Let us know what you're thinking about, what you're working on, because it's very important to us as we go around the country to understand, what are people doing, all these different spots that we're going to, so that we can have a sense for, what we're hearing, what we can take to the next place, and to, try to lift up everything that people are doing in all the different wonderful towns and cities around the United States that we're traveling to. Minor.
Okay.
Can you all hear well? Do we need to turn it up a little bit? Turn it up. Is it good? Okay.
Can you hear us? Yes. Okay. Adelante.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Minor. I'm from Guatemala, and this is my first time here in United States. I'm so glad to my first time in the United States. I know too many people in the fight, no? Yes. So I feel good with that. I can't speak too much English, but I can speak in Spanish and translate for you. So, Guatemala es un pequeño país abajo de México, que muchos tal vez no conocen, pero que es un país independiente de México, parte de Centroamérica.
Guatemala is a small country just to the south of Mexico, and perhaps some of you don't know much about it, but it's an independent country. It's not part of Mexico.
Y en nuestra historia, que es corta, hemos tenido varios esfuerzos de democracia y de participación.
And in our history, we have had a number of different times and phases of struggle for democracy.
Quizás el más importante de ellos fue la Primavera Democrática de 1944, la cual terminó con un golpe de Estado promovido por el gobierno de Estados Unidos 10 años después.
So perhaps the most important phase of struggle was one that started in 1944 and brought democracy to Guatemala, but was ended 10 years later by a military coup that was supported by the United States.
A eso le siguieron 40 años de guerra, en donde el pueblo se defendía de los dictadores que eran avalados por gobiernos extranjeros.
And this military coup resulted in 40 years of war in which the people of Guatemala came together to defend themselves from those attacks.
En 1985 finalmente se crea una nueva constitución en donde se establece una nueva época de democracia en el país, y mi nacimiento es en 1989, entonces mi generación es una generación que nace en un contexto de paz y de democracia.
So finally in 1985 there was an agreement that led to a new constitution that set the basis for democracy. I was born in 1989, and so I've lived a generation that knew peace and the possibility of struggle.
Sin embargo, la cultura que veníamos heredando era de no hablar, de no emitir opinión, de no reclamar. Siempre nuestros padres nos formaron con la idea de que manteniéndonos callados estaríamos más seguros.
But unfortunately, I grew up in a culture that kept us silent, where our parents taught us that to not say anything, to not share your opinion was the best way to be safe.
Rompimos esa creencia en 2015, cuando miles de guatemaltecos y guatemaltecas jóvenes salieron a manifestar en contra del gobierno por actos de corrupción que fueron expuestos.
And we broke this culture of silence in 2015 when thousands of young Guatemalans took to the streets to condemn the corruption of the government and ask for something new.
Yo estaba terminando la universidad ese año y me tocó liderar las manifestaciones de la única universidad pública en Guatemala.
I was finishing my time in university then, and so it was my responsibility. I took on the task of helping to lead the demonstrations from the largest university in Guatemala, which is also the only public university in Guatemala.
Y así fue como empezó mi carrera como defensor de derechos humanos.
So that's how I started my career as a defender of human rights.
Hace 5 años fundé una organización que se dedica a la investigación social y a la formación de líderes activistas en todo el país.
So 5 years ago, I started an organization that is dedicated to investigating social investigation, social research, and to forming young leaders across the country.
Y desde estas investigaciones he podido conocer la realidad que atraviesa las organizaciones de mujeres, campesinas, de indígenas de todo Guatemala.
And so as a result of being part of these investigations, I've been able to understand the realities that are facing women, farmers, and indigenous people across my entire country.
He podido ver cómo el norte y la frontera con México de mi país es azotada fuertemente por la violencia y el narcotráfico.
I've been able to see how the northern section of my country, the part that has a frontier with Mexico, has been devastated by violence that's the result of narco trafficking.
He podido ver a miles de indígenas organizados para luchar contra el racismo estructural que les mantiene sometidos en el país.
I have been able to see how thousands of indigenous people are organizing to fight against the structural racism that keeps them oppressed within our country.
Y también he podido ver cómo miles de jóvenes en las ciudades del país sueñan y luchan por un mejor gobierno y cómo estas luchas han sido debilitadas con la llegada de Donald Trump al gobierno de Estados Unidos.
And I've seen how thousands of young people in the big cities struggle and dream for a better country, and how those dreams have been undermined by the arrival of Donald Trump as President of the United States.
En mi país hay un dicho, tan lejos de Dios y tan cerca de Estados Unidos.
In my country, there's a saying, so far from God, but so close to the United States.
Vengo con emoción a escuchar sus historias y a compartir mis historias, porque estoy seguro que son más parecidas de lo que nos hemos dado cuenta.
So I'm excited to be here to share my stories and to hear yours because I'm convinced that our experiences are more similar than we could possibly have imagined.
Thank you for that.
Yes, tú? ¿Quieres ver? So that's all that Minor wants to start with. Thank you, and we will move on to Ali.
¿Yo?
Sí, adelante.
Okay. Bueno, entonces, Hace 4 años nosotros elegimos por primera vez en Colombia a un presidente de los sectores populares, un presidente que venía literalmente del barrio, de la calle, de las luchas por los derechos humanos.
4 years ago in Colombia, for the first time in our history, we elected a president from the popular sector, someone who had literally come from the neighborhoods, from the streets, from the struggle.
Más de 200 años para que una persona que defiende los derechos del pueblo, los derechos de los campesinos, de las mujeres, de los hombres y mujeres negras en Colombia y población indígena, y además, después de haberse asesinado 13 candidatos presidenciales, por primera vez logramos romper con esa tradición donde algunas familias ponían los presidentes.
So for more than 200 years, the popular sectors in Colombia, women, farmers, indigenous people, the black people of our country, didn't have representation. And so, dijiste demasiado.
Okay.
Pues la segunda parte.
Yo ya no recuerdo.
Sorry, we're losing our memory here. So this new government, for the first time, is one that we put our hopes and dreams into, and that was elected by all of the people of these sectors, the black people, the indigenous people. They came together and voted in unprecedented numbers to bring this government to power.
Tristemente, ese proyecto popular del pueblo que empezó a transformar las cosas en Colombia, hoy tenemos que decir que por ayuda de Donald Trump no podemos continuar.
So this government that came to power in this way and that represented such effervescence and hope for Colombia, we have to say that right now, after our recent election, it's not going to continue, and largely that's due to Donald Trump.
Trump eligió o ayudó a elegir a un abogado que es un delincuente, una persona que se dedicó toda su vida a defender a delincuentes.
Trump put his finger on the scale to help elect a lawyer who is a criminal, who has spent his entire career defending people who are criminals within our country.
Abelardo de la Espriella es el presidente que ayudó a elegir Donald Trump en Colombia, quien está amenazando con destripar, asesinar a todos los que piensan distinto a él.
Abelardo de la Espriella is the candidate who Trump helped to win, who immediately upon winning the election threatened to gut the opposition, to literally to bomb and destroy anyone who was on the left.
La gente negra votó mayoritariamente por el candidato del proyecto progresista y del cambio en Colombia.
The black people in Colombia overwhelmingly voted for the progressive candidate, the candidate of change and in Colombia.
Y por esa razón están siendo víctimas de las amenazas del presidente y de su grupo político, que están diciendo que van a lanzar bombas sobre nuestras cabezas.
So as a result, black people in Colombia are specifically being threatened by the president-elect, who has literally said that he will bomb the communities that supported the opposition.
Esto con el propósito de generar miedo en nuestra población, pero nosotros no lo vamos a permitir.
So they are doing this with the intent of creating fear and resentment in our communities, but we're not going to allow that to happen.
quieren llevarnos a una guerra. Nosotros en Colombia, que llevamos más de 50 años matándonos entre nosotros mismos, no queremos más guerra, queremos paz, queremos justicia.
So they want to cause a war, but in Colombia we've had more than 50 years of war, and we want peace, we want justice.
Pero su presidente, el que eligieron aquí en Estados Unidos, puso un presidente en Colombia que quiere guerra.
But your president, the one who was elected here, helped to put in a president in Colombia who wants war.
Así que la tarea que tenemos ustedes y yo es no solo derrotar nosotros en Colombia a Abelardo, sino que ustedes tienen la tarea de derrotar el fascista de Donald Trump.
So we have a mutual task. In Colombia, we have the job of beating Abelardo, the president-elect, and here you have the job to beat the fascist Donald Trump.
Por eso es tan importante el voto. El voto es lo único que no nos han podido arrebatar.
So that's why the vote is so important. It's one of the few things that they haven't been able to take from us.
Por eso es tan importante que en las elecciones en los Estados Unidos ganen los sectores demócratas, ganen los líderes y lideresas que están defendiendo la vida, que es lo más importante hoy.
And that's why it's so important that in the United States that the Democratic sectors win. We don't mean the party. The Democratic sectors win this election, people who support life.
Nosotros o ellos, us or they. This is the question. Us or they. El fascismo o la vida.
So this is the question right now in front of all of us is fascism or life?
Life.
Life. Life.
Life.
Okay. Okay. That's right.
That's the correct answer. Yeah.
En Colombia hicimos algo muy interesante y fue convocar a más de 5,000 abogados. Me reuní con más de 1,500 de manera presencial en todo el país.
So in Colombia, in the recent elections, we did something very interesting. We brought together 5,000 lawyers, and I personally met with 1,500 of these lawyers.
Esa legión de abogados tenía la tarea de vigilar las elecciones para que no se las robaran las instituciones encargadas en Colombia de hacer las elecciones.
This legion of lawyers had the job of protecting the elections, of being vigilant to make sure that the institutions were not corrupted.
No confiamos en los resultados de las elecciones. Perdimos por alrededor de 250,000 votos.
We don't honestly believe that the results of the elections were accurate in Colombia. Officially, we lost by about 250,000 votes.
Lo que sí sabemos es que desde la Casa Blanca se pagaban pautas para el candidato Abelardo de las Espriella. Lo que sí sabemos es que Elon Musk, como Israel y Estados Unidos, apoyaron a Abelardo.
What we do know is that from the White House, there was support that Elon Musk, Israel, supported the right-wing candidate very strongly in Colombia.
Estos desgraciados no solo están decidiendo el destino de la vida de millones y millones de personas en el mundo, sino que además están saboteando las elecciones en todo el mundo.
So these scumbags are not only affecting elections here, but they're sabotaging elections around the world.
Por eso la cuestión es nosotros o ellos. Tenemos que decidir. O nos apoyamos nosotros, porque creo que el pueblo es superior a estos desgraciados.
So the question that this leaves for us is it going to be us or is it going to be them? And that's the question that these lowlifes have left us with.
Thank you.
It was 2 years ago in Guatemala, right? Or 1 year ago?
1 year.
One. And so the four of us were together over there, and we got together under this event that we named Democracies Under Attack, and it was like 150 people from all the Americas, the Canada, US, all Latin America. And the first question was, what is democracy, right? What the hell is that? We talk about democracy, but democracy can be something for me, something different for him, something, but what we need to agree on is something that Ali said. Whatever democracy is, our goal together is to defend life. Life over any politician, over any company, any money, life. Life is first, right? And each of us, each individual right here has that power. Do not underestimate the power that each of you has when we come together collectively. That's the most important tool that we have. In any government, because in Latin America we have a long history of like coup d'etat and like all these mess that the US has helped to do in Latin America. We have like 50, 60 years of like dictatorships, authoritarianism. We face what you're facing right now. We've gone through that many times because of the US mainly. Because of the interests of this country and the companies that are here in our countries. So the reason why we are here is because we want to connect our local struggle, your local struggle, in a global struggle. We need to understand each other as part of a globalization is also bringing us that we need to understand each other because we are facing the exact same power that is oppressing us every single day. The white supremacy, the authoritarianism, the fascism, all that is the same around the world, and it's led by one person in here, one single person that has all that power. It's incredible. So, for example, as they've been sharing, and as we recently saw the elections in Honduras, the elections in Colombia, the elections in Peru, Argentina, all Latin America, Mexico has been, let's say, good. I'm so surprised to say that Mexico is better than the US right now. It is. And despite the fact that we have a government that was elected by a movement that was built recently, it's called Morena, the political party who's in power right now. And our president, Claudia Sheinbaum, you probably have heard of her because she became so popular and all that. And I think she's doing great things, but there are many other things that are beyond her government, and one is the crisis of disappearances in Mexico that we have, right? So when you're gonna go and vote and think about you, think about your community, but think about us too. Because whatever you're voting in this country is gonna affect all of us in Latin America. And whenever you're voting for your representatives, you have to think about also policies like two policies, for example, that we have as part of our binational movement. One is called Stop Arming Cartels Act, and the other one is called Armas Act. So if you vote for people that are gonna vote to control arms, for example, you have to think, oh, I learned recently that guns in the US are also affecting Mexico and also affecting Guatemala and also affecting Colombia. So you think about us too and think that we gonna think about you too, that we gonna be connected to you, and that what you gonna share with all of us now that we're gonna discuss in panels, we're gonna take it back to our countries and say, hey, we learned this, and also important because I think that people in South America, sometimes they think that there are not people fighting in the US. Sometimes people that don't have the opportunity to connect and to come to this country, they think like, oh, everything is just McDonald's and capitalism, and we don't think about, no, there are Native Americans here, there's Black people here, a lot of migrants, a lot of Latino people, and we need to fight together. So I think that's the main message that we want to deliver here. And for example, talking about democracy, also after what we've seen in all Latin America with this US intervention, Mexico, for example, it's gonna vote a law that it's gonna, eliminate the elections if there's proof of external interventionism. And what does that mean? We don't know exactly, but we know why it's there. Why are politicians in Mexico discussing that? It's because we've seen what the US is doing in Latin America for all these years. So understanding how US foreign policy is not just terrible, but how it affects all of us, because we are connected to you. It's also super important when you think about your own democracy, think that we are connected and that we need to fight together. That's just my word. Thank you. The most interesting part is now questions, I think. If you want to ask questions, I think that's important too. I would come to Pia.
Yeah, we can run the mic around, so if you have questions, please.
I'll start. Thank you all for being here. My name is Bianca Austin. I run a nonprofit after my niece was murdered here, Breonna Taylor, in 2020. I started a nonprofit just to give affected families support. Just after experiencing tragedy through police
Su sobrina es
brutality, we learned
Breonna
that,
Taylor,
they
fue
have a lot of
asesinada
support
ella
and policy that helps them. But then you have these families who just
fundó
are
una
overwhelmed and
ONG
they're just trying to,
para
just try to find a place.
promover la
Over the
justicia
last
y
couple of
apoyar a
years,
los jóvenes.
Just mentoring families across the country. We have a real policy issue here, right?
Tenemos
So a
una
lot of-
cuestión
when
fuerte
we
de
say
política.
fascism versus life, we
Fascismo
have,
contra
in
la
the
vida.
United States, it's policy over people.
Aquí es la
And so a
política
lot
sobre
of,
la gente.
Policies, whether it's medically or when it comes to the law, we learned that that's not on our side for Black and brown people, right?
Hemos encontrado la realidad de que la política no es a nuestro favor como gente de color.
Kentucky has a huge drug issue here, right?
Kentucky
Huge.
tiene
We're
pues
probably
que el problema de
one
drogas
out
es
of
muy
5
grande
of the
aquí.
states who have a huge
Como somos
prescription, and it's mainly prescription drugs. As it comes to street drugs, Black people are well off, right? Now, here, what we're experiencing is prescription drugs, right?
Pues aquí,
So you have fentanyl,
aquí
you
el
have
problema
all
de
these
drogas es más que
entities
drogas
of drugs.
de
And so
receta,
it's hard to help people
Es que
when
de
Medicaid
receta
and
que
policy
son
give them a temporary fix, but a long-term issue. So we can help, people on drugs temporarily, but there's no real long-term
Que-
issue for us because of policy. Because
que
a lot
las
of people, guess
políticas
what?
no
You get down on your luck,
favorecen una
you feel like
solución
you hit
verdadera
rock
que,
bottom. Where do you go?
que la gente que ha
Go to the
utilizado
hospital.
drogas de receta pues luego
When you out here, the
son
homelessness,
adictos
when
y,
you have nowhere to go,
y pues
guess what?
caen en
you go
la
to the
adicción.
hospitals, right? Because it's emergency care. So that's your emergency. When you're down on your luck, you don't have absolutely nowhere to go, no resources. We use the hospitals here. So
Y cuando no hay recursos, la gente llega al hospital porque no hay otro lugar
well, they're not.
para ir.
That's one of the biggest things here in Kentucky is that we assume that we have
¿Estás
8
entendiendo?
major
Más o
hospitals
menos.
here. And they got walk-in drug treatment. But nobody looks at the policy of how are we helping these people. It's not effective at all. So with that being said, I just feel like nationally, the United States problem is policy here. Like
Que
even when it
aquí
comes to
el
police
problema
officers,
se basa en la
and their
política,
conduct,
las políticas malas
they
que
have
no
a
sirven.
policy that
a la
protects
gente.
them. So
Y
I
que los
just feel
ricos
like
tienen políticas que les
nationally, we need to work
protegen.
on, creating our own, you know,
Tenemos que crear
just
nuestra
like
propia
Vocal does, right? Because Vocal's a nonprofit, they try to help people
cosas
with
como
homelessness,
Vocal.
but that's only a portion, and they can't help everybody.
Eso es
because, you know,
solo
we
una
have funding
porción.
and so
No
on and
pueden
so forth.
ayudar a todos.
But this is things that our tax dollars are paying for,
Nuestros
right?
dólares,
Out of-
pues
when we get-
impuestos
Y'all
pagan.
get y'all check every week, we pay taxes to them. We pay
Pagamos
taxes,
impuestos.
we pay Medicaid taxes, we pay state taxes, federal taxes,
Pagamos
insurance taxes,
varios
tax on top of
impuestos.
taxes, dog taxes.
No es
It's all
totalmente
kind of
coherente
taxes
lo que
we
está
pay
diciendo,
for,
y
yet
por eso
our
los
people is not getting
fragmentos.
help the way
Nuestra
we
gente-
think they are,
nuestra
because it's
gente
a policy issue. So,
necesita
that's
ayuda,
just
pero
what I
no-
wanna
no-
bring to the table, and I don't know if you all have experienced the same thing as far as like, helping people who experience homelessness and people who are,
¿Puedes
having
responder?
issues with drugs.
Experiencias con drogas, ¿no?
Pues experiencias que no pueden recibir ayuda porque las políticas no son adecuadas a los problemas.
¿Quieres decir algo primero?
¿Me resumes?
Es que básicamente que las políticas aquí no responden realmente a las necesidades y los problemas.
Ok, en primer lugar, siento mucho lo de Breonna Taylor.
So I feel very deeply what happened to your niece.
Cuando estuve aquí por primera vez, estuvimos con Shamaica visitando un lugar en honor a Breonna.
When I was here 2 years ago, we visited the memorial to Breonna with Shamaica.
En Colombia, lamentablemente, asisto a muchos funerales, lamentablemente, de jóvenes, de niños negros asesinados por la policía.
In Colombia, I go to many funerals of young people, many of them killed by the police, and it's very unfortunate.
Acompaño a familias, a madres, sobre todo, a enterrar a sus hijos por las balas del Estado.
I accompany mothers, grieving mothers who are burying their children because of bullets from the state.
Pero no nos quedamos llorando. La tristeza llega, pero debemos reponernos, pararnos y luchar por justicia.
But we don't continue to cry. We pull ourselves together to struggle and challenge these policies.
Lo cierto es que la policía no está ni en Estados Unidos ni en ningún lugar que yo conozca para defender a los niños negros, a los niños pobres, a la humanidad, sino al poder.
And I don't know of anywhere where the job of the police is to truly defend young black people, young poor people, that it seems everywhere that the main job is to defend power and privilege.
Así que la policía tendrá que en algún momento decidir si está del lado de nosotros o está del lado de ellos.
So at some point, the police have to decide, are they on our side or are they on the side of the powerful?
Porque son muchos de ellos, o la mayoría de ellos, vienen de barrios populares y deberían defender al pueblo.
And many of the police actually come from poor neighborhoods and they should be on the side of the people.
Allí hay una decisión que hay que tomar.
Okay?
Allí hay una decisión que deben tomar.
So that's a decision that they need to make.
Con respecto al tema de las drogas, como lo señalé en el auditorio, las políticas sobre drogas no se han diseñado para defender a la gente, están diseñadas para controlar a la gente.
So in regards to drug policy, as I indicated earlier, these policies have been designed not to help people, but to oppress people.
Necesitamos construir, reimaginar las políticas de drogas para que defiendan la vida de la gente y no que se sigan midiendo por vidas asesinadas y personas encarceladas.
So we have to reimagine drug policy so that it supports people's life and health and happiness, not putting people in jail or in their graves.
Thank you. Sorry.
So drug policy is one, and the other one is more like how can people get involved in policy, right? And in Mexico, and I guess in all Latin America, we have a big example from indigenous people. And we have a lot of different experiences from indigenous people, especially in Mexico. We have a lot of, we call it policías comunitarias, like community police. And what is happening is that the police is so corrupt in Mexico and so linked to narco traffic and all the cartels and crime that some communities have been organizing themselves to kick out the police and organize their own security, and that's autonomy. And we reivindicate the power of autonomy too. And we have a big example, like we have a long history with Zapatista communities and all that, but right now, for example, we have a case that it's Cheran, that it's part of our binational movement. We've been bringing, as I mentioned earlier, the People's Movement for Peace and Justice, that is this binational movement, and we create relationships between indigenous folks from here with indigenous folks over there. And one of the biggest experiences is Cheran. Cheran is a Purepecha community, is an indigenous community in the state of Michoacan. Michoacan has a lot of crime, a lot of narco traffic things going on there and all that. And so 50 years ago, they just celebrated their 15th anniversary of autonomy. And it's the only and first indigenous community that has been recognized by the national government as an autonomy community. And what they did is that they had a problem with loggers that were cutting the trees in their forest that it's sacred for them, and also tied to crime and to narco traffic and all that. So they decided to, of course there was violence, of course people die in the process too. And they decided to close roads, to kick out all these, all the political parties and all the police. And they created their own police. And they decided to run, there was a reform in our national electoral system just because of this small town in Cheran. And that's the biggest example for like how electoral systems are not responding to local problems and how you can change it and how you can get involved. So even if it's a tiny community, they have been electing their own authorities for 15 years already, and it's a council of 12 people, and they have their own police that it's called community police, and they've been creating the system, and this has been happening in many places in Mexico. They create their own system where you have to do community service and other things that are not just like being incarcerated all the time or killing people as still in the US death penalty, no? It's a different process. And in terms of drugs, we have many other examples. For example, the state of Guerrero in Mexico, it's where this flower, what is it called? The poppy flower for the morphina and all those things, heroin, all those things. It grows there, and people who are cultivating that, it's poor people, poor indigenous and Afro-indigenous people that live in that state. We have the biggest Afro-indigenous community in that state, and they live in the mountains, and they grow this flower because they are pushed into this market, and it's not because they want to become like, I don't know, gangsters or whatever, narco traffics, because they are pushed into this system because they are poor and they are forced, literally forced. A lot of the disappearances, it's because narco traffickers force people, and especially indigenous and black folks and poor workers, they are forced in our communities to work for them, and they end up disappearing, right? So because of, that's a very particular example, but since the war on drugs started in Mexico in 2007, we've had about 400,000 people killed in the process. Imagine that we've been in war for like almost 20 years. And no one has declared that this ended. And what they did is like something that you're seeing here now. National Guard on the streets, taking care of like security for things that they should not do. So we have the same struggle. We've seen that many times. And for me, the only way to face this is through communities, through solidarity, through try to educate each other, try to be, what is it called, empathy with each other, right? Understanding that we are coming from a lot of pain as you are coming from a lot of pain, and trying to move forward together from that. But it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy issue, and I see what you're saying and why you're saying that, because it's not easy for anyone, not here nor there.
En Guatemala tenemos muchos modelos de vida distintos a lo interno.
In Guatemala, we have many different styles of life within the country.
Un pequeño porcentaje de personas aspiran o se sienten estadounidenses.
A small group of people imagine themselves to be Americans, like U.S. Americans.
Van a comprar una vez al año su ropa a Miami, se pagan seguros de salud privados, compran carros nuevos cada cierto tiempo.
They once a year go to Miami to do their shopping. They're able to pay medical insurance. They have those privileges. El tercero, el tercer privilegio, ¿cuál fue?
No, cualquiera, el
Okay.
tema de salud, pero en fin.
Okay.
Sin embargo, el 85% de guatemaltecos ganan el salario mínimo, que está alrededor de $470 al mes.
But the reality for Guatemala is that 85% of the people have worked for minimum wage, which is equivalent to about $485 a month.
Y de estos, el 70% no tiene seguro de salud ni cobertura del gobierno porque está en trabajo informal.
And then of these, about 70% don't have any health coverage or help from the government because they work in the informal sector.
Les digo esto porque en ambos modelos tenemos problemas en donde quizás nos podemos identificar.
And I say this because in both sides of this, there are some commonalities that maybe we can relate to.
Porque las personas adineradas que se sienten estadounidenses también consiguen los medicamentos adictivos que la publicidad les vende a ustedes y terminan con serios problemas de salud mental por eso.
But even the wealthier sector who think of themselves as being like people from the United States also have access to addictive drugs and wind up with serious health problems and mental health problems.
Con la diferencia de que el medicamento en Guatemala suele ser mucho más caro que en el resto de países vecinos y en algunos casos incluso más caro que acá en Estados Unidos por la falta de regulación.
And this is despite the fact that the medicamentos ilegales.
No,
No,
los legales
okay.
incluso.
So that in Guatemala, healthcare, getting medicines is very expensive. It can sometimes be as expensive as it is in the United States.
Y la gente pobre tiene que elegir entre ir a un hospital público en donde hay grandes colas de accidentes y de personas heridas, o buscar una clínica privada en donde se va a gastar el poco dinero que tiene.
So poor people in Guatemala, if they have a medical need, have to choose between going to a public hospital where there's very long lines of people waiting who have injuries or other health problems, or to go to a private clinic where they have to pay exorbitant costs that take all the money that they have.
En Guatemala se dice que estamos a una gripe mal curada de la línea de pobreza.
So in Guatemala, we have a saying that we are one bad cold away from poverty.
Sin embargo, también hay diferentes modelos para poder afrontar estas dinámicas.
Nevertheless, there are different ways that people confront these problems.
Y todos tienen que ver con la construcción de comunidades sólidas y solidarias.
All of which have to do with the construction, building solid communities that have solidarity within them.
También tenemos modelos indígenas como los que describió Elena, en donde hay grandes comunidades de pueblos que se organizan y se administran a sí mismos.
So we also have big indigenous communities in Guatemala, like the ones that Elena was describing in Mexico, where people collectively take care of one another and administer their own, for their own necessities.
Ellos resuelven sus problemas de agua, ellos cuidan los bosques y los ríos de donde obtienen la vida, y ellos imparten justicia en base a sus tradiciones dentro de sus territorios.
In these communities, people take care of the water and the forests that are part of their heritage, and they also help each other with the economic necessities.
Imparten justicia.
Sorry,
No.
and they also are able to impart justice to have justice systems that are within their own communities.
Hay una cifra brutal en Guatemala. Los 50 municipios menos violentos del país es en donde no hay presencia de la policía estatal.
There's a kind of brutal statistic in Guatemala that the 50% of communities where there's the least violence are the ones where there's actually no real presence of police.
Y es porque ahí prevalecen modelos tradicionales de organización.
And that's because in these communities there are the traditional ways of dealing with justice.
Pero sabemos que irnos a una comunidad alejada no es una opción para quienes crecemos en una gran ciudad.
But we know that for those of us who are growing up in a big city, going to a distant community is not an option.
Pero he visto modelos increíbles de comunidades urbanas que van surgiendo en función a territorios y espacios compartidos.
But I've seen incredible models even in cities of people organizing in neighborhoods to have similar kinds of systems, even though it's in an urban area.
Y estos territorios no tienen por qué ser únicamente físicos.
And these territories we're describing are not necessarily physical.
En estos momentos donde la tecnología nos enajena, donde la tecnología nos aleja de platicar con quien tenemos a la par,
In these times where technology tends to interrupt our communication with those around us, where we're alienated from our own communities,
hemos visto cómo se forman comunidades virtuales a partir de intereses compartidos, a partir de hobbies o a partir de personas que se identifican con otros lejanos, pero al mismo tiempo que comparten una línea de pensamiento.
So we've seen how online people have come together around different interests, hobbies, different things that bring them together even though they don't live in the same place.
Y estos territorios virtuales también son un punto de partida válido para generar comunidad.
And these virtual communities are also a valid way of building community.
Y antes de cerrar, yo no quiero dejar de hacer una mención que una de las comunidades más hermosas que he conocido de lucha, la conocí en su país hace una semana.
And before closing, I want to say that one of the most beautiful examples of community solidarity that I've seen is something that I saw just a little over a week ago in your country.
En Minneapolis y San Luis conocimos a gente valiente que sale a defender a sus vecinos, que no hablan el mismo idioma, que no tienen el mismo color, pero que se identifican como seres humanos.
In Minneapolis and St. Paul, we saw communities of resistance that had come together who don't necessarily speak the same language, don't have the same skin color, but they've come together in solidarity to defend each other.
Entonces, no importa el problema que estemos enfrentando, la solidaridad es la respuesta.
So it doesn't matter what problem we're facing, solidarity is the answer.
Yo quería adicionar una última cosita y es con respecto a la guerra contra las drogas.
I wanted to add just one more thing, and it's about the war on drugs.
La hipocresía de Donald Trump y de la política estadounidense con respecto a la guerra contra las drogas es total.
The hypocrisy of the war on drugs and Donald Trump is absolute.
El presidente Petro es el presidente que más ha incautado toneladas de drogas en la historia del país.
President Petro, the one who's in office now and was elected properly, is the one who has captured and taken out of commission the most tons of cocaine of any president.
Y por eso Donald Trump lo quiere mandar a prisión.
And for this reason, Donald Trump has threatened to send him to prison.
Y ayudó a elegir a un presidente que ha defendido y se hizo rico defendiendo a los peores criminales y narcotraficantes en Colombia.
And he's helped put in power, Donald Trump has helped to put in power a lawyer who has defended the worst criminals and narco traffickers in the country. He made his fortune by doing that.
Así que son unos hipócritas, hay que decirlo.
So we have to say it out loud. This is absolute hypocrisy.
Yo también quiero agregar algo. Una cosa, yo.
No, I just thought about the health system too that you referred in your question, and I think we have the best example in Latin America for health system, and it's Cuba. Cuba has the best doctors in the world and have shown the entire world what solidarity means. Even right now, and even after 60 plus years of like US blockade, right now Cuban doctors are in Venezuela, saving people that after, the earthquake happened and there are like thousands of people disappeared and died and all that. Even if they are not receiving a single drop of oil from Venezuela anymore because the Trump administration doesn't let. And for me, it's so impressive how Cubans are showing us over and over and over and over what solidarity means and how people can build solidarity across borders.
All right. Let's give them a round of applause. And I did get to see, when I visited Cuba for more than a week, that in practice, we had someone with us who had a medical emergency and they needed their prescription. And literally, we walked into the pharmacy and they didn't even take cash. They didn't ask for cash. They fulfilled his prescription. And we were all blown away by it. And we all know that each country has its issues and things like that. But if you hear what they're talking about, the solidarity was built and is sustained through sacrifice. That means somebody said, we're going to stay with this no matter what. And so I hope that many of you registered, because if you register through the link, you will get updates from the Global Exchange, from the next leg of their roadshow. They're going to take a break after this, and then they're getting right back at it. I need you also to know that Ali's life has been threatened. Yes, it has. He came here 2 years ago, and his life was being threatened, and all of them are in danger because of where they live, because of the political connections. So this is not just a happy dance or come and see us. This is real life solidarity, and I want to thank them for being courageous to come and share with us. We talked about that resistance, that resist that Lyndon has on his shirt. That comes in many forms. They're every day that they wake up and show up in our different places, they're showing their resistance, right? And many of us have privilege, right? Even if we're not white, we're able to step in and do things that so many people can't do. And I've seen it as I've traveled, but I also feel it when I'm here. And so that's why the work of Vocal is about lifting up the voices of those impacted by the issues. But also we have allied members, partner organizations that are doing that work too, because it looks different and we must meet people where they at. So the workshops that you will go to will talk about our local work. The call to action is stuff that we can do locally and across the state. So I really want you to come back for that. We're gonna come back at 4 o'clock. That is I've been through this museum a bunch of times. You can touch and go and come back here at 4 o'clock. In this room will be Abel. Marcus, can you raise your hand? Abel is going to be here, and we did the civic participation, and he's going to be here. And Abel is advocacy based on lived experience. Downstairs, you'll see in room 111, it'll be about youth leadership and how to engage with youth. Room 110, Savannah and Ben, raise your hands. They'll be in 110, talking about things that you can do within government. And if you've run before, if you're considering running for office, all the things to consider, okay? And at 4:30, we will switch. You don't have to switch, but if you want to check out another workshop, you can, okay? So they have been gracious and said that we could switch and they'll do it over again so you all can participate. They have decided which ones they're going to. Can you say which workshops they're going to? You remember, Elena?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to 1, he's going to 2, and he's going to 3.
So Ali will be here in 3. No, you'll be here in 2, right? 2. And then Ali and Elena will be downstairs in 1 and 3, right?
1 and 3, yeah.
Yeah, but you all go where you want. They have a sign. Lift up your Post-it and see what number you have. You all should have a Post-it from 1 to 3. Do you all have one? Yeah. Can I see them? Okay. Who didn't get a Post-it with a number from 1 to 3? You have one? I don't see yours, Antonio. Okay. You don't have one. We got one over here that needs one. Anybody else? Melvin needs one. Anybody else? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All together?
All right, let's do a picture and then you off until 4 o'clock, okay? Who all wants to get in the picture, come and join us up here. Thank you. Great idea.
Should we like stand?
Why is everybody like? Why
Hey
is
y'all, I'm
everybody
Atticus
fighting
Scott,
against
former
us?
Kentucky State Representative, and you're joining me today on State Watch Nights.
We will continue to provide updates as we have more information.
Former Kentucky State Representative, and you're joining me today on State Watch Nights.